Okay, we are live. It is Karen and Tina, 7:30. We are just going to wait and let people join. So hopefully you guys had an opportunity to go back and read, or excuse me, listen to the video from last week that we had with part 1. And so this is part 2 of our series on marriage. So we'll just hang out for a couple minutes here, letting people join. So, and I'm going to try to pull up my iPad at the same time so we can get some questions and answers this time as well. So
we've been reprimanded that we get too close to the camera because we're trying to see with our bifocals. We're trying to read the comments. So we have been told that we are not to go forward to the camera and try to read comments with
like
our bifocals just like that. So we have a resident techie who is giving us pointers. So we're going to actually look at the iPad. So if we look down and read, that's why, because we're trying to be hi, Kathy.
Hi, Kathy. Yeah, so we are going to try to keep our faces away from the front of the camera today. And just to notice we are matching again today. See that, Kathy? And we did not even plan it.
We didn't plan it. It's just what happens when you've been sister-in-laws for so long together. We're like, are you kidding me? When we saw each other tonight, we were like, wow.
Yeah, when you walked in, I thought, oh my goodness, should I go change? It was funny though, because when I put it on, because I put it on this morning, of course, I haven't had a chance to change all day yet. But, oh, well.
I didn't want to wear a dress and heels, so I just got more comfortable. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, I'm comfortable every day.
I know. She works from home.
So anyway, I didn't want to change, and I thought, well, I wonder if she has anything this color, if I should call her and tell her to wear something this color. And so couldn't find out. Didn't even have to call and tell her. So
yeah, true. Twins and friends. That's my exact thought, Kathy. We had I don't know if you remember Becky Fordyce or Becky Rich that I came out with. Becky. Yeah, her little daughter when she was little. If you were alike, she called you twins and friends.
Twins and friends.
Mm-hmm.
Was that an Oklahoma thing?
No, that was just her term.
Twins and friends.
And so yeah, friends and twins, twins and friends.
Cute. That's
yeah,
really
so
cute.
that's just been something I think of quite often. Obviously, Kathy still does too, so because that's what she posted.
Yeah. All right. So, Kathy, you may be our only person today, but that's okay. We're okay with that.
Maybe we'll rig the drawing.
Yeah. Should we?
I didn't say that.
Should we rig it?
Should
go in and find hers. Kathy So funny.
By the way, I'll just mention, since it's just Kathy here so far, she just finished her cancer treatment. She's done. She got to ring the bell. So.
Oh, that is so awesome.
Yeah. Her and her sister had cancer at the same time.
Both at the same time.
And that's the only 2 children her parents have. Can you imagine?
No, I cannot.
That was, I'm sure, very trying for her parents.
Was it the same type of cancer? Different types of cancers.
Mm-mm.
Wow.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
That they both got it at the same time?
It is.
Your poor mom and dad.
But very cool that you had somebody to go through you with it, because you experienced the same things together, you know. So it's tragic, but at the same time, there's a part of, I don't know, when you're able to feel what somebody's going through at the same time, I just think it really can be supportive. So yeah, yes, God is very faithful, Kathy, and we are thankful to hear that great news for you.
Yeah, she posted. Maybe it wasn't you, but somebody in your family posted a picture on Facebook today of both of them getting to ring the bell at the cancer center.
That's sweet.
Yeah, that was cool.
That's very cool. So, hi, Carrie.
Hi, Carrie.
Yes, 2 is better than 1. So Kathy she must have watched. She did. She watched my video I posted today. So I don't know if you had a chance.
I watched it when you said that. I knew it was. Had to do with that, so.
Yes, 2 is better than 1. Definitely. So, very sweet. But okay, we're going to go ahead and do our drawing. So, those of you that are listening either live or post live tonight, we did put the names from last week for everybody that participated. and for these wonderful little mugs. And we have 2 of them to give away. And what does it say on the inside?
Trust in the Lord.
Trust in the Lord.
Isn't that
so
cute?
I put everybody's name in here. I should rig it so that Carrie and Kathy win.
You would feel guilty, didn't you?
I would. But here,
Okay,
go up. Just make sure you grab one. The first one.
I've got one.
Okay. Who is it?
Danielle. This was not rigged. Danielle.
Oh, that is so funny. Okay.
8 years.
If
She
you
and
pull out
Zachary.
Cheryl, we're in trouble.
I know. Here, I'll do it and you pull out. She and Zachary have been married 8 years now, and I can hardly believe that it's been that long. It seems just like yesterday.
Okay. Gaitha Sykes.
Yay!
So yay, Gaitha. So we'll make sure that you guys get these cool little coffee mugs. So.
And then that way, when you join us, you can get your coffee mug. Well, we have our coffee mug.
Yes.
Ours is water mug, though. We have water in ours.
I don't do coffee this late. If I was to try to do coffee this late, I wouldn't sleep.
I started to grab your Mio in there, and then I realized it said caffeinated, and I'm like, no, probably better not do that. So I found
my orange one's not.
No,
caffeinated.
it was a red one.
Oh yeah.
I was being nosy. I was looking around your kitchen.
Be scary.
No, you
Scary
normally
tonight.
have good snacks in there. I don't know how they stay, but we eat them too fast at our house. So.
Okay, so marriage part 2. Are we ready to go? Oh,
Let's go.
Yes, Carrie. We did not mean to color coordinate tonight, so it's ironic. When she walked in tonight, I thought, oh Lord, they're really going to think we are putting together our outfits.
We're not. This is 34 years of being sister-in-laws.
Yeah.
It just happens.
Yeah, and we obviously must stay within the same color ring.
Well, probably so.
Color wheel, I
Yeah.
guess that's what you call it. So, yeah. So, anyway, marriage part 2. We ran out of time last time talking about marriage.
That was amazing.
And it goes really quick. In fact, we're already
7 minutes in.
7
We've just
minutes
been
in,
yakking.
so
That's what I love about this. It's like they're right here with us.
I know.
It's just like
I know.
getting
And
together.
you guys, I want you guys to think of some questions to ask us too.
Even if they're hard questions,
Ooh.
give us some good questions.
Yeah.
See if you can find out our secrets.
We're pretty transparent, although there are probably a few things that I would not share, but most things I can talk. In fact, I asked Dan before we even started this thing, I said, what's off limits? And he said, nothing. I said, are you serious? Nothing is off limits? And he said, no, I trust you.
Did you guys go in and see her little that little post on the women's ministry when her and Dan were trying out the camera last week? It was adorable. That was just so sweet.
He's funny.
Dave and I had been arguing. We'd have been like, no, move it this way.
Dan's so easygoing. It makes it so much easier because he is so easygoing.
That's what's been funny about us being sister-in-laws is because Dan and I are so much alike, and David and Karen are so much alike. And it's just been really odd because Dan and I, we always want Chinese food, and they never do. And so it's funny.
Yeah, we always used to say David and I need to go on a date night, and Tina and Dan do, so that we can get the foods we want. So
one time we were at a volunteer dinner, and people always they mix up the couples. They'll say Dan and Tina or Dave and Karen. They used to a lot. They don't do it as much anymore. But we were at a volunteer dinner, and the waiter came to the table and said, Dan and Tina, and then we were like, it's David and Tina, Dan and Karen. And he's like, who ordered the fish? Dan and I were like, oh, we did.
Yeah, kind of how it goes sometimes. So, anyway, so we want to talk a little bit more about marriage tonight, and we want to talk a little bit more about fun, some fun things. And I was trying to think of today of some fun things, and one of the things that I thought of was the time that you told me when you missed Dave after Dave would get home from work. Tell us what you did.
I knew she was going to make me go first.
Yeah,
That's
I know.
okay, 'cause she's got a story I want her to tell too. No, this was when David and I were first married, and I had moved out here, and I moved 1,600 miles away, so from family and friends, and I didn't know a lot of people, and I didn't have a job yet. and we were in our first little apartment. So he would go and work for 8 hours and then come home, and the poor guy just wanted a few minutes to himself. So he would go into the bathroom like right after work to do his duty. And I would sit at the bathroom door and pass notes under the door until he came out, like, "You don't love me." And there I'd write one, "I miss you," and put it under the... And so I was trying to communicate with him. And so he finally realized that he just had to get it done and get out, because I wasn't going to leave him alone. I was going to pass notes under the door to him. So.
I love that. So I don't know how many people have had to deal with some of that in their marriage.
Hi, Lori.
Hey, Lori. You know, we think that if our men go and do their own little things off the side, that they're not paying attention to us. We just feel really neglected sometimes, don't we?
I did that this weekend.
Did you?
Yeah.
You felt neglected?
I did a little bit.
Oh, it was a busy weekend.
It was a busy weekend.
Yeah, and your husband works a lot. He does that. He's a workhorse.
He's just like his mother.
Yeah.
He doesn't sit still.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So there's a lot of fun in marriage, and I know when Dan and I were first married, and you know, it's kind of weird that we have stories that are similar, but it shouldn't be too weird because we did marry twins. But so we were probably it was right after our honeymoon, and we moved to Ventura when we were first married. As I said last week, he was in training program, so we were in our apartment for the first night, and so we get in bed, and suddenly Dan, if you guys know what the Dutch oven is, Dutch oven me, where he basically put my head under the covers and wouldn't let me out, and proceeded to pass gas and wouldn't let me out. And I'm thinking at that whole time, what in the world did I get myself into? And I was thinking about that story again today. And the ironic thing is, I just heard a pastor say the other day that marriage is like having a slumber party with your best friend forever.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and it just kind of resonates. It's, you know, when you marry somebody and you have that friendship with them, it's kind of, it can be like a slumber party, you know, if you let it. There's a lot of fun involved in a marriage.
Yeah, there is. There is. Oh, never mind. I don't want to tell that story.
She's probably gonna.
Well, I don't know if it's because. Okay, so I have a brother, but I wasn't raised with boys, and I know your brothers were older, so a lot of this I was real naive, but a lot of our humor now revolves around that kind of stuff, and so the other night in the middle of the night, I just, you know, got a little free, and David stopped breathing. And I was like, honey, did I kill you? I mean, I think he has sleep apnea, but anyway, it came at the wrong time. So, okay, let's get on with our topics. Or we're gonna.
I had.
She won't be drinking from her cup.
No, I had a fly that just decided to take a dive into my cup. That was pretty nasty. So, I might be slipping a drink from yours. I have two different colors of lipstick.
That's okay.
Anyway, so, you know, a little bit more about marriage. I ran across this passage today too, and I think it was Tim that posted it on Facebook, and I thought it was really kind of cool. It says, the reason that marriage is so painful yet wonderful is because it's a reflection of the gospel, which is painful and wonderful at once. The gospel is we are more sinful and flawed in ourselves than we ever dared to believe, and at that very same time we are more loved and accepted in Jesus Christ than we ever dared to hope. And that just really resonated with me, because, you know, God is the one that designed marriage. He made us for a relationship. You know, when he made man in the image of God. And then when he made woman to be the helpmate for the man. And so he gave us different attributes of himself. And so we complete each other in a marriage. A man and a woman really will complete each other in that marriage. And but I can just see, you know, all the way through the Bible, if you look at, I mean, the Bible, it starts right away with the marriage of Adam and Eve, and it ends in a marriage with Revelation, with Christ coming back to get his bride. So really, the marriage relationship really is a very intimate thing to God, you know, and so I loved that it said that it's painful yet wonderful because it's a reflection of the gospel, and it is, because in marriage you have to give each other grace all the time. I mean, that's what keeps your marriage together, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because there's times that sin enters into your marriage. There's times that hurtfulness enters into your marriage, and you know, Satan wants to do nothing more than to destroy that relationship. And so, I mean, there's times that I have to go around just giving my husband grace all the time. I'm sure he would tell you the same thing about me, but I don't think I ever do anything, but of course I know I do.
David gives me more grace than I have to give him.
So,
which is irritating.
You know, it's both ways. It's both ways. I'm sure, you know, it really is. But I love that. And then down a little bit in this article later, it says, the hard times of marriage drive us to experience more of this transforming love of God. But a good marriage will also be a place where we can experience more of this kind of transforming love at a human level. So, I mean, what a cool concept to really think about marriage being, you know, really kind of an outpouring of the gospel at work.
Yeah. In
our lives every single day, we have that opportunity to extend grace to one another, to extend love to one another. And yet at the same time, you just, you know, when you walk in your house, you can just let everything go, right? I mean,
normally you do.
Yeah.
Normally you're the meanest to the people in your house.
You are. Good and bad. You just let everything go because you walk in and you can just breathe finally. Yeah. You're like, oh, I don't have to hold my tummy in anymore. I can, you know, let my hair down. I can take off my makeup. And, you know, it's just, there's just so many things you can do when you walk in that door. And because you know that everybody in that room, in that house loves you. And they're just going to just accept you exactly as you are. You know, that's just kind of the gospel of grace.
Yeah, they don't normally accept me just like I am.
Yes, they do. Your family loves you.
Well, no. I know my family loves me, but I'm sure they get irritated at me.
Yeah. Well, that's the other part of this, though. That's where the grace should happen, right? In the family.
Yeah.
That's where the grace should happen.
Yeah.
So.
I remember when we first got married, I can remember somebody telling me that, because David, I guess, isn't a very patient person. And I remember somebody telling me, you're the only person I've ever seen him be so patient with. because I guess he wasn't very patient when he was a teenager. So
yeah,
but no, definitely I can see probably more so, you know, because I'm the recipient of it, where David has very many characteristics of the father.
Yeah,
in how he deals with me. So
and leading the family.
Yeah. But on the other hand, I know, and I remember the Holy Spirit just dealing with me on this one time. I was. David was gone. He was doing something for somebody. And again, this is who David is. And he was supposed to be gone 2 hours, and 2 hours turned into 3 hours, and 3 hours turned into 4 hours. And Satan knows where your weaknesses are. So that's where he attacks.
Yeah.
And so I'm, since childhood, I've been insecure. And in relationships, like I've never felt like the best friend. Or I never felt like, you know, I know, thank you. Well, I'm better now, but sometimes those old insecurities will rear their heads up again.
They will.
And so I was feeling like I was being put second because he was meeting the needs of somebody else instead of being home with me when I had stuff that I wanted to get done, and or just to be with me, even it was just to spend time. And the longer he was gone, the more frustrated and angry I was getting. And I had this conversation going in my mind, and I was ready to lay into him the minute he walked through the door. And the Holy Spirit, right before he came home, just quickened me and said, you know, you set the mood. As the wife, as the mother, you set the mood in your home.
Yeah.
So be careful. And so I decided I would hold my tongue. I really felt like that's what the Holy Spirit was wanting me to do. And that's so hard to do when you feel like you're right, and you want to make a point, and you want to make an argument. But I held my tongue, and he came in and shared with me what he had been doing, and he had such joy, and he had really ministered to somebody and helped somebody. And I realized in that moment, had I not held my tongue and listened, I would have taken that blessing totally away from him.
Yeah.
And I probably would have set the mood in my home for, days to come, because we would have been mad at each other.
Yeah.
So, and I would have missed the blessing of hearing what had transpired that day. So,
and I love that, Tina. I love that you said that you're the one that sets the tone for the house. That you're basically the fragrance of your home. And if you're mean and spiteful, that's the tone of your home. And as women, we really own that a lot. And because I know anytime that I have a what do you call the alter ego called Bertha? And when Bertha, my kids always knew when Bertha was home to be careful, because Bertha was not very nice. And so if we were all Berthas all the time, and it's just when Bertha was home, I knew it was quiet and people were afraid to talk and approach, and I just can't imagine living like that all the time.
Yeah. And some people do. But
so how do we do that? How do we get to a point where when you're angry like that, how do you just forgive that and move on so you don't live in that?
Well, to me, it is definitely the work of the Holy Spirit. It is living a Spirit-filled life.
Yeah.
And we have the opportunity to listen to the Spirit or to ignore the Spirit. And if we listen to Him, we really have a much, much happier home and a much happier marriage. But sometimes, our selfishness comes out. And I tend to be a selfish person by nature. So, it's definitely a detriment when I allow my flesh to rule over the Spirit.
Yeah.
But that's the cool thing about the Holy Spirit, is that He is definitely there to guide you.
Keep you in check.
He does it all the time.
Yeah. And unfortunately, too many times we don't listen to that. We just react because we're emotional. We're emotional beings, and if our needs aren't being met, or we're feeling like we're being neglected or in any way, we're just emotional about it, right? We want them to make it right, and our poor men are always trying to make it right for us.
Yeah.
They can't always do it. So I love that, though, just listen to the Holy Spirit a little bit more.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay, now let's talk a little bit. I know we talked last week about, some pieces of advice, and I know one of the things that we really need to be concerned about in marriage too is the attack on the family. And so what are some additional things that we can do to protect our marriages? What are some things that you have done and that you would suggest that other people?
Well, this was a piece of advice that I was given early on in my marriage, and so glad, because I'm in the workforce, that I always adhered to it. And that was never have sex. Not sex. Oh my gosh.
She did it. She said it.
No, that was not the piece of advice.
It's live, so I cannot delete it.
The words were not to have sex with the anyway, it was not to have lunch or go out with the opposite sex, even when it's it's a co-worker or whatever, and not to talk about your marriage with the opposite sex.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's really key, because I think all too often you see marriages that suddenly the husband or the wife leave the marriage for somebody else, and a lot of times it's because they have opened themselves up to that vulnerability.
Yeah,
like you said, they've met at work, they go and have a casual lunch, and it starts off being very casual. And then before you know it, they just start sharing a little bit more, and it just becomes easier and easier. And that's how Satan likes to do it. He likes to do it slowly, so they don't even realize what's going on before suddenly they're caught. I mean, I don't think there's very many people, and I'm sure there are, but I don't think there's very many people that will just suddenly say, oh, I'm going to go have an affair and ruin my marriage. it's usually done very slyly. So
Starts out with a friendship.
it really does. And just like we were talking last week about, the importance of maintaining your relationship by dating and things like that. Oh, we've got 5 minutes. See how we do?
Happen?
Because we chit chat too much. But about maintaining, about continuing to date each other so that it's when you keep that intimacy in your marriage, you're not as vulnerable, for those things. But I think that's great. Making sure that you always have that protection. And I know, it's probably been a couple of years ago, there was a lady that Dan worked with, and he had been coming home and telling me about this lady at work that had just recently gone through a divorce. And so of course, my little bells go off like, okay, why is he talking to this person about a divorce? And so the type of job he has, sometimes he does have to work with women that are on the job, and there might be just 2 or 3 of them in there together. And so I just casually said, I don't think it's a good idea you talking about her divorce. You cannot help her because you are a married man, and she's going through divorce. She's very vulnerable. I said, even though I trust you, I don't trust her. So that needs to be like off limits. And at that time, he was also carpooling with another guy at work, back and forth to work, and the other guy ended up going to be working late. So he called me and he said, hey, can you give me a ride home from work? And I said, sure, I'll be right there. He turns around and calls me and said, oh, never mind, I'm getting a ride. And I said, well, who are you getting a ride from? And he named this person's name. And I said, oh no, I'll be right there. And he's like, Karen, it's really okay. She doesn't live too far from us and she'll just drop me off. And I said, no. No, I will be right there. And so I proceeded to go get him, even though it was a 20-minute drive, proceeded to get him. And he gets in the car and I said, honey, I trust you 100%. I honestly do. But she's not in a good place in her life right now. She's going through divorce. She's vulnerable. And you're a man, and men like to fix things. And so I just, even though I trust you, I don't want to open that door for anything that Satan could put in there. Whether it be somebody talking about you guys in the car together, anything. I said, I just wanted to remove all possibility of doubt. And that's the way you do it.
Yeah.
That's what you do. You've got to protect yourself. It's not about lack of trust or anything. It's really about safety.
Yeah. And instead of Dan getting upset at you for feeling that way, he respected your feelings, and that's part of marriage too. Sometimes you don't understand exactly, but you have to just respect and trust them. So
I had, early on in our marriage, I had a lot of jealousy issues. I was a very, very jealous person. And I remember even one time when he was working at a packing house in our early marriages, and I remember him getting ready to go to work, and he had on cologne. And I said, what are you wearing cologne for? You're going to a packing house to work. And he said, it's aftershave. And I'm like, well, who's there that you're wearing the aftershave for? And it was in a moment that he just looked at me and like, really? But my jealousy was just so overwhelming, for me at that time. So I didn't have the insecurities like you did with, just being insecure. I had real, true-on jealousy issues. So even as our marriage has evolved, I can still get that little green monster out every once in a while.
Yeah, that's what I said. Satan knows our weaknesses, and he pushes those buttons sometimes, and that's why it's so it's so important, like Kathy commented, just to be sensitive to the Spirit and follow that leading, because he'll never steer you wrong.
That's right.
And you'll always come out better for that.
Yeah, so that is so true.
I'm so sorry that our time is almost up again.
1 minute, and our left is... Do any of you guys have any questions for us that we can answer?
While you think about that, I do want to say I had a couple of people come up to me over the weekend and say, we enjoyed the talk on marriage, even though we're single, and one of them said, I'm single, but I still liked it. And I said, you know what? Even though you're single, it could be something that's said that you kind of tuck away.
Yeah.
And then at that point in time, when you do get married, then you can pull out that information. Yeah. Or maybe it helps you set up your you know, what you would like to see your marriage be like.
Yes.
So,
agreed. Agreed.
Yeah, give you some expectations.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for joining us, those of you that were able to join. We really loved having you here. And if you wouldn't mind, just take a few minutes and, you know, put down any questions that you might have for us or any suggestions on what you would like us to cover for future on these. We would love to hear any feedback that you guys have for us at all. So, all right.
We love you guys.
Love you guys.
Bye.
And I'll let you finish it this time.
Okay.